All right. Oops, let me close this one. Oops. Wait, minimize Discord. There we go. Okay. All glories to Mother Natasha. All glories to Religion of Love. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Supreme Lord. O Lord God, please help us live out these teachings and be an example of love in the world. Jai. All right. We're continuing where we left off on the book of answers. And the next question asked was of austerities, saying, in all religions are there things that must be given up? And so they questioned her, what do those who follow the religion of love give up? And she answered them, what is given up is illusion. Our practice is love, through the giving up of everything that is not of love. And there was a young man who said, you speak of giving up illusion as a practice of religion. It seems to me that religion is nothing but illusion. When we ask questions of those who preach religion, instead of facts, we are told to have faith. Are we to be made foolish by being expected to believe in that which is clearly unbelievable? If there was a religion about truth and not illusion, he said, that one I would follow with all my heart. And she said, religion is about truth, but the truth can be so twisted till it is turned into a lie. And she explained by saying, a sick man went to a physician, and he was skin and bones and shaking with weakness. And the physician said to him, eat and gain weight. Later, another man went to this same good doctor, and he was so fat and his heart was strained. And the same doctor said, don't eat and lose weight. Now, if you are told only what the doctor said, what would you think? And this gave him understanding. And so he said, it's no wonder I find no truth in what is said, for they preach in part, to make the Scriptures say what they would have us hear. The fault then, she said, is not in the teachings, but in the teachers. And he agreed. Then in whom is the truth to be found? He asked, and she reassured him. In you will the truth be found, she said. Just as you knew what was false, so too will you know what is true. No one can teach the truth to you. They may only remind you of what you already know in your heart to be true. Then a man, pious by reputation, asked that he might speak, and said to her, since childhood I have been taught to follow faithfully the practices of my religion, and I have followed blindly in all the traditions, as did my father and his father before him, never thinking at all. But today, in hearing you, for the first time I began to question all that I do. There are so many rules and regulations, and I don't always even know why we do the things we do. Please advise us. Is there a single simple rule, easy for all to understand, on what things to give up and what things to take up, that a man may enter paradise? And she said, the teaching is, anything that helps you to enter into paradise, take up. And anything that is an obstacle to paradise, give up. Okay, let's go up here. All right, so the next question was asked of austerities, saying, in all religions are there things that must be given up, right? Feel free to raise your hand and talk. Anyone can name some austerities that we know of in a religion. You guys think of some austerities? Yes?
Fasting.
Fasting, yes. Fasting is an austerity practice in religion. Anybody think any more? Interactive day. No? Perhaps.
Maybe a vegetarian food in some religion.
Right. Restricted diet. Sure. That's an austerity.
Things. No, not this. No.
Perhaps some practices in certain faith is poverty, giving up worldly possessions as an austerity, or going to live in the forest. That could be an austerity. Right? Can we think of some more austerities that we know of in religion?
So taking time off for prayer and celebrations respective to each religion.
Oh yes, being very regular with prescribed prayers and holy days. Oh yes, that's an austerity. Keeping to the holy calendars. Okay, so we got some idea. So, in all religions are there things that must be given up. Now, as far as the things that we give up, this is usually the fearful trigger most people have with religion. Oh, what I have to give up. Oh no, I have to give things up, And what they really are afraid of, give up things that I enjoy. But whatever God commands of us or asks of us in the scriptures to give up, really is just giving up our suffering or the causes of our suffering. God only asks for our good. But it can be confusing because they vary between different faiths, different religions, different sects on what such austerities might be. So the man asks, what do those who follow the religion of love give up? And she answered them, what is given up is illusion. Our practice is love, through the giving up of everything that is not of love. And what does that mean? So, what is given up is illusion. Illusion would be all the false understandings that we have of life, like the false conception of the body as self, and thus making our purpose in life pleasing the senses of this body, forgetting our higher purpose, that we are spirit souls, making only those who related to my body as my friends and those not my enemies. This is an illusion that causes suffering to ourselves and others. We give up the illusion of the things that will bring us happiness, all the limited and temporary pleasures of this world, the which we get some joy for some time and then eventually are disappointed, and thus we chase after the same thing again and again. This is an illusion. Seeking happiness in the wrong places, for example, and things that won't give us eternal lasting happiness. So, all the things that we are prone to misunderstand or to be unsure of, or really anything that distracts or sidelines us from our true purpose in life, spiritual realization, coming to love of God. We give all those things up. And she says, our practice is love, through the giving up of everything that is not in love. And what is love? As we've clarified before, it's the closest word that we have, love, honestly. But it's a hot topic word. I'll redefine it again. Love is the eternal, ecstatic, spiritual. Love is of God, and God is love. So when she says our practice is love, so our practice is to engage our minds, our bodies, our words in activities on the spiritual platform, or in devotional service to the Lord. There are different forms of devotional service, like such as hearing, chanting, remembering, worship, prayer, etc. And each one of these activities, these practices, because they're for the satisfaction, for the pleasure of God, and not for our own personal material benefit, they are quite purifying, because those are activities on the spiritual plane, on the spiritual platform. So our practice is love, by engaging in activities of love, engaging in spiritual practices. And what do? These spiritual practices, these purifying forms of processes in religion? What they do is they cleanse our heart and mind of everything that is illusory, of all of our ignorance, our forgetfulness of our true nature, of material contamination of our consciousness. They cleanse away everything that is not love. So, one person and one religion may get great benefit from, let's say, fasting. I know just the other day was a holy day of fasting. I know some of the folks here may be fasting yesterday or today. And that is well and good if it's done for the pleasure of God. Now, you don't have to fast. There's different forms of devotional service, of course. And all of them are purifying if we take them up and if they benefit us. And as skipping ahead, when she says what are the simple rules, what I must give up and what I must take up, she says anything that helps you. Anything that helps you into paradise, anything that helps you get closer to God, closer to love, closer to your true self, to self-realization, take it up. Anything prescribed in the scriptures or taught in disciplic succession by bona fide spiritual masters, if it helps you, take it up. And if something's an obstacle, something that's going to hinder you or distract you or push you down the other direction, the wrong direction, or away from love of God, then give it up. Very simple. Mother Atasha, on the example of fasting once more, she didn't say to any of her disciples, remember, who are of all different faiths, Christian backgrounds, Hindu backgrounds, Muslim backgrounds, atheist, no background. She didn't tell us, you need to follow this fasting, you need to do that fasting, or this one or that one. Because, there's different recommended forms of fasting in the scriptures. She said, if it helps you, take it up. And of course, we did have our regulated principles. We're all vegetarian, all Mother Tasha's disciples, so we have a lifelong fast from meat, fish, and egg. So she said, that's already austere enough, but if you want to do more, you take it up. If it helps you. If it doesn't help you, no problems. The main thing is that we engage in devotional service, engage in activities for the pleasure of God that purify our hearts and minds. And of course, there's different forms of it, different flavors of devotional service, whatever is more conducive to you. One person may prefer to chant all day. It's great. Chant all day long the names of God. One person may prefer studying scriptures and trying to live them out in practice and hearing. Do that all day long. Great. Okay, do that. That suits you. Because either activity is on the transcendental plane. It's all devotional service. It's all activities of love, of their spiritual activities. So whatever helps you, take up. Whatever is an obstacle, give up. Very simple. So to each their own, in a sense. But of course, whatever is beneficial as prescribed by God and, of course, as messengers. We don't manufacture our own thing and say this is good. I know there's so much manufactured forms of austerities, some of which are quite ghastly. In some faiths, people hurt themselves. They abuse their own bodies. They might beat themselves, thinking to beat the sin out of themselves. And this is not prescribed in the scriptures, nor taught by masters in disciplic succession. But to many, this is considered to be a valid austerity for purification. Now, of course, that's why we clarify whatever is taught by God not manufactured by man. These are the things that are beneficial for us. So, what is given up is illusion, and our practice is love through the giving up of everything that is not of love. Because that's our natural state, is love. The natural state of the spirit soul is love, is eternal, full of knowledge and blissful. This is the nature of the spirit soul, Sat Chit Ananda. And we don't experience that because we're just covered over in the dirt of material nature, the dirt of material consciousness. And that's what engagement in the spiritual activities, the devotional service of God does, is it cleanses away all those things of our consciousness until all of that muck and mire and dirt is just cleansed off the mirror of the mind, until only that pure love, your true self, shines through. That's self-realization, basically. That's enlightenment. Just doing the work. Clean your heart and mind. And there was a younger man who said, "You speak of giving up illusion as a practice of religion. It seems to me that religion is nothing but illusion." Okay, right away we understand this young man had been burnt out by religion, and rightly so. There's a lot of people in this world who have an utter disdain for religion, or anything religious in general. And that's by no fault of what God has given. As Mother Tasha says later, the fault's not in the teachings. The fault is in the teachers, the misleaders. And she clarifies, he says further, when we ask questions of those who preach religion instead of facts, we are told to have faith. And I know some of you here in the class and also those watching, I'm sure I myself have experienced that when you ask question to someone who poses themselves as an authority, as a teacher, and it's something that they cannot answer, well, if they were in all humility, they would say they don't know the answer. But most are not. Most are filled with pride and false prestige. And they're quite dismissive, and they say, "Oh, just have faith. Just listen to what I said, have faith." Or they might even get angry. And this has happened to many people. Because, and we've talked about this before in classes, that a lot of the leaders or teachers of religion are not self-realized souls. They're not people who have cleansed all the material dust from the mirror of the mind. And what they teach is just second-hand knowledge, the knowledge of others, just what they heard from other people who were also not self-realized, not enlightened, not completely living in love and engaged in the devotional service of the Lord without any expectation of reward or benefit for themselves. No. And so we kind of got the blind leading the blind in religion today. And this is on all sides of the world. Honestly, it's not any one particular faith. It's all over the place. And it's not just in religion, it's everywhere. Even in, school, teachers I'd ask questions because I want to understand. I want to know things that don't make sense to me. It's not clear. And so I would ask questions, what does this mean? What is that? Da-da-da. And for the teachers who weren't really good teachers at all, they get quite frustrated with me. And I would get in trouble. But the good teachers, the ones in humility, they would say, "Oh, okay, well, let's try to figure that out. Let me find out." And as Mother Atasha taught us, young disciples and preachers, she said, if you're asked something and you don't have the answer, you be honest and say you don't know. But I will try to find out the answer and get back to you. That's what is more prudent, not like when you pull over and ask someone for directions. Hey, how do I get here and here and here? And they don't know, but like, try that way. And you follow that way and you get even more lost, like, oh, that guy. And that's what's happening. We listen to these people who don't actually know the true transcendental nature of God. They don't actually know or have experienced their true transcendental consciousness as eternal servitor of God, free from the false bodily conception of life. They don't know, but they say, do this, go there. Or worse, they teach in part, just, picking, choosing what they want from the scripture to preach whatever motive or doctrine or whatever man-made thing that they want to push so that they can make the people do what they want them to do, basically. But not exactly what God asks of us to do. So, it says, are we to be made foolish by being expected to believe in that which is clearly unbelievable? If there was a religion about truth and not illusion, he said, that one I would follow with all my heart. And she said, religion is about truth. That's what it is, religion, the re-linking again with God, with the supreme absolute truth. That's what religion is for. That's what we're all meant to come to. But, as she says, the truth can be so twisted till it is turned into a lie. And she gives the example of the sickly, skinny man goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, you need to gain weight and eat a lot. And then a fat guy comes to him who's really overweight and unhealthy, and the doctor says, you need to cut down your eating and lose weight. So if you're not told the context, if you don't understand the whole situation of what the doctor's saying, and someone says to you, did you hear that? The doctor told this guy to stop eating, told this guy to eat more. What is this contradiction? Contradiction! The other day, there was a young kid, I don't know if he's going to watch this class, I hope he does, who joined me on VC, on the server, and he started getting into this modality of sharing some nonsense preaching where they cut and choose pieces of scriptures that they're not familiar with, they're competitors. I won't say which, but one religion, I guess you can say followers of one religion at odds and at beef with followers of this religion. And they were cutting and choosing and picking little pieces of scripture and blowing them out of proportion and taking them out of context. And twisting them in such a way to make the people hate the other faith. Hate the other people who follow such a faith. This is quite demoniac, and this is extremely offensive to God. Really. This little piecemeal lawyer ball type of preaching is quite evil. Because if you understood the whole context and understood the inner teaching, the inner message of all the scriptures and messengers of God, they're all on the same path back to love of God. But, of course, people are in illusion. They're in their minds. And they don't know what is right, what is true. It's all speculative to them. And most of their intentions are political, they're economical, they're all these worldly things. Their intention, and what this kid on VC was trying to share, this type of ignorant rhetoric, the intention wasn't love, wasn't to bring others to love. In fact, even just now in our general chat, just before class, there was a man of a particular faith, again, who was talking smack on another faith. And what is the intention? Is that going to bring him to love? Is that going to bring us to love? No. A bitter seed produces bitter fruit. And ignorant consciousness will only have quite ignorant results. That's why it's good to have proper guidance on what is what, and not to, listen to our minds. And here Mother Tasha says, let's see, it's no wonder I find no truth in what is said, for they preach in part to make the scriptures say what they would have us hear. The fault then, she said, is not in the teachers, but in the teachings, but in the teachers. And he agreed. So then in whom is the truth to be found? He asked. And she reassured him, in you will the truth be found. In you. Remember, all spiritual knowledge is within us. It is the nature of the spirit soul, eternal, full of knowledge and blissful. This is the nature of the spirit soul. So that truth is in you. You just need to access it, of course. How to access it? Well, we need proper guidance. But as she says, just as you knew what was false, we can feel it in our gut like something's off. Trust your gut feeling when you feel something's not right. Trust that. That's actually the real you within you, the spirit soul, trying to set an alarm to your mind that something you need to be wary of. Just as you knew what was false, so too will you know what is true. And it will just resonate. It will just make so much sense. It will click like, oh, yeah. And she says, no one can teach the truth to you. That's true. It's already there. You can't put it in someone. It's already there. They may only remind you of what you already know in your heart to be true. And she doesn't say mind, not when in your mind. Out of our minds are illusion. They're full of ignorance and they're full of defects. But in your heart, that's where you are, right here in the heart of this body. And that is where the truth will be experienced, not in the mind, but in the heart. Then a man, pious by reputation, asked that he might speak. Since childhood I have been taught to follow faithfully the practices of my religion, and I have followed blindly in all the traditions as did my father and his father before him. Right. This is very common. Today, religion is more or less a set of traditions. Not always, of course. And some of these traditions are timeless and eternal and are rooted in devotional service, of course. But not all of it. In fact, there's a lot of things that just don't make sense. As he says here, there are so many rules and regulations, I don't always even know why we do the things we do. It just becomes a ritual, becomes a habit. There's no heart to it. It just becomes like some autonomous practice that we just have to go through the motions and not really know, why do we do this? And then you ask a question, they're like, just do it. This is what your fathers did. This is what we're meant to do. This is what we're supposed to do. But no. If something is false, and it's been practiced for generation after generation after generation, that doesn't make the false thing true. And this is a hard thing for some to hear. And there are some sects or groups of philosophies out there that are not in alignment with the message of God, which are not approved by the bona fide authorities of the scriptures and the Lord's messengers. Not abiding by Guru Sarusastra, not in accord with these bona fide sources of spiritual knowledge. But people practice them, they believe them anyways. They go through the motions, and if you try to tell them that, it's not actually right, well, you get slammed down, they'll fight you on it. Most of religion is practiced on the surface, but not in the depth, in the heart. We're in the mind, we're in the bodily conception of life, but not acting out of our eternal nature solely for the pleasure of God, obeying strictly and only what God has given, not man. But this is what we have a lot of experience of in the world. Yeah, just because the lie's been repeated thousands and millions of times does not make the lie truth. No, what God gives is true, and that is eternal. So the man's confused. He's starting to question the things he's been doing all his life. And he asked the spiritual master, is there some simple advice, some simple rule for all to understand on what we should give up and what we should take up? And as I covered a bit before, the teaching is anything that helps you enter paradise, take up. he uses the word paradise, so she just repeated what he said. Paradise, he means to say into heaven, or into the spiritual world, into the kingdom of God. Basically, what will bring us to God? Bring us home to him. He says, anything that helps you, take it up. Anything that is an obstacle, give up. And it's important to qualify that by what are the bona fide sources of spiritual knowledge. Because there's a lot of man-made philosophy out there, but though man may make philosophy, only God gives religion. And what is religion again? The relinking process to go back home to him. And if we are confused, unsure on what is bona fide, well, we consult the proper sources. And if you have access to the living message of God, that would be the fully purified, enlightened, self-realized spiritual master in disciplic succession, then submit your inquiries with all humility, and you will be blessed with knowledge. And that knowledge will be simply the same knowledge that has been given again and again and again by the Lord, and backed up in the scriptures, of course. So I think I went over a bit. Let me pause there. Okay. Does anyone have any questions related to today's class? Oops. There it is. I know I didn't cover too many topics. I don't know. I talk quite a bit, as I said before. Mother Atasha was very succinct. You had to really ask and ask and ask, and she would open up and share more and more. So I'm just trying to give as much as I can possibly think or remember as I've heard and as I've experienced, to give more context to the teachings. But sometimes I blab on too much. I could probably cover more pages of the book. It only went like 2 pages, but it's okay. All good? It's all clear. And it's important things are clear, and because if we don't understand, of course that's why we ask questions, so that we understand, so that we can be able to do it. Mother Atasha taught us, if you don't understand, or if the teachings aren't clear, you won't be able to do it. And if you can't do it, you'll make no progress in life. So it's good to ask questions. And boy, I know how disappointing it is when you ask questions and someone says, just listen to what I said. Don't ask questions. Or they'll give you some, cockamamie answer that doesn't make any sense. Like, huh? And I asked a lot of questions to Mother Atasha. Oh my goodness. I had so many questions. But she was a good teacher. She didn't dismiss my questions. She answered everything, was very clear. And she was so knowledgeable. Oh my gosh, so knowledgeable. Why is this person on the planet, in my humble opinion, when she was on earth? Really. Boy, she could answer from all the scriptures. Boy, she just draw the answer right at your heart. She knew the question behind the question. Oh my goodness. How rare these great souls are. You guys stuck with me. Trying my best. So anywho, no, you're good?
Yeah.
My wife is good. She's baking in the sun. Oh, she's got an umbrella. Okay. All right then. Well, I guess we can just close there then. Unless anybody's typing anything. Nope. All right. All glories to Mother Atasha. All glories to the religion of love. All glories to the assembled devotees. Jai.